Hello, and thank you for your interest in the Practicum at StorieBrook Therapy and Consulting. My name is Dr. Rachel Ann Kieran. I am the practice owner, clinical director, and the primary supervisor at StorieBrook. And I'm so excited to get to tell you all a little bit about our practice, what we do, and what to expect in this practicum. And I'm always happy to answer more questions. My contact information is at the end, so people can ask anything that they want about the practicum. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about our work. So first of all, our practicum is a specialty, or it's a specialty practicum and a specialty practice. And our specialty is something that I call sexual, gender, and relational diversity. When I talk about that, that's really an umbrella term that I've created to encompass all the populations and areas in which we work and have an interest. It doesn't necessarily describe all the presenting issues that we see, although I'll talk about that in a minute. The work that our practice does is really focused on redefining ideas that have strong social assumptions and norms, and clarifying that this is about a population, not a pathology. The fact that somebody is, for example, transgender or queer or in a consensually non-monogamous relationship does not make that person inherently pathological. However, they may experience a great deal of minority stress. They might be pathologized by other people. They may have been pathologized by therapists in the past. And we want to affirm people's identities while also working with them to help create wellness in their world in whatever way that they need to. So we talk about the idea that we create a range of services that specialize in this area and recognize that it is an expansive category and a very intersectional category. And I'll show you an example of that a little bit later on. So one of the things that I often do when I talk to people about this is have them think about what their ideas, what their automatic assumptions about the words sex and relationship are. People often have an image that crops up or a specific behavior, and we focus on the idea that the concept of sex is not about a specific behavior. It's about an agreement. It's about consent. Any behavior that has consent for the purpose of pleasure between individuals, that's sex. Or even with just one person, that's sex. If the consent is not there, it's not sex. We need to use a different word there. Similarly, relationships are defined by agreements. What defines a relationship is not the behaviors that people engage in with one another, but that they have an agreement, that they've discussed their intention, that they've given consent to meet those agreements and expectations with one another. So we spend a lot of time breaking that down, talking with people about that, and talking with people about what their needs are in the areas of sex, gender, relationships, all of these areas. I could speak at great length. I frequently do. I do a lot of training in this area. If you're interested, I'm happy to connect people with more resources, but I know that's not the purpose of our little video here today. So, my therapy practice offers services to folks who may be in marginalized populations by virtue of their identities and status being outside the social and cultural norms in which they live. So that includes folks who may be engaged in consensual non-monogamy or consensual power exchange relationships, a lot of transgender, diverse, and non-binary folks. We also work with a lot of neurodiverse individuals who've been pathologized and told that they need to change, when in truth their brain style is their brain style, and they may not be able to change, but they need a great deal of accommodation, or they need to figure out what accommodations will help them and what they can do to make living with their brain style easier. And I'm one of those people as a neurodiverse individual myself. We also offer affirming treatment to folks who are members of diverse spiritual groups. We work a lot with pagan affirming treatment, with folks who are involved in nature-based faiths, people who find themselves outside of what is expected in their cultural group, so outside of that cultural norm. And we also provide services that are affirming and not pathologizing to individuals living in larger bodies under a health at every size model, and help people work towards what is their relative health. We have a set of practice values that we've worked really hard to create that really capture who we are and what we're trying to create. I didn't put all the language here for each of these, but if you're interested, please check out our website. That's what the little QR code links to, and it tells you kind of how we think about each of these values. So for example, when I use the word access, that can have a lot of meanings, but we really recognize that access to mental health services is a privilege that is systemically withheld from from many in our world. And so we've made a commitment to working to expand services by providing sliding scale, lower cost, and increasingly accessible services to clients. Where that's not possible, we're committed to engaging in a referral process and to assist clients in finding services, even if we are not the provider that can do that. And so we do spend some of our time doing that. Similarly, we really are focused on doing anti-racist work in ourselves and with our clients, in embracing body liberation, collaboration with our clients rather than feeling like we are telling them what to do, cultural humility. We are a diverse and disability-led practice, and we work to center that and also to understand that we may have very different needs one from another. We really focus on education not only for our practicum students, but also for ourselves. We're all committed to continuing to learn a variety of skills, new things, and obviously providing education is a really big and important part of that. And we want to provide inclusive, affirmative, and trauma-informed care. So you may be wondering, what does this look like in the practice? Well, our practice was founded in 2007, and back then it was just me. I was a solo practitioner. I was the only person in the office. It was part-time. So the practice was very, very small for a long time, and I couldn't take practicum students, unfortunately, but I knew that was something that I eventually wanted to do. In 2021, I had the opportunity to significantly expand the practice and bring on other folks working with me, and I always use the phrase working with me for my practicum students as well. Nobody works for me. We all work collaboratively here. And then in 2022, we were able to add a practicum program. This current year, we have added some new staff. And of course, we'll be taking on at least, we have openings for at least 2 practicum students. So currently, we have 2 psychologists, 2 social workers, 1 professional counselor, 1 marriage and family therapist, and because we are undergoing another expansion, we actually don't have a practicum student in the current era because we are working to build out the property that we have purchased for our practice. We provide adult therapy services, so we only see people over 18 years old, and the majority of that is individual therapy, but a fair amount of that is also relationship therapy. We offer relationship therapy for folks in any kind of relationship. We've worked with folks who are ending their relationships, starting new relationships, expanding their relationships to include additional partners, and so we use the word relationship therapy because it is not exclusive to people who are in dyadic relationships. We also each spend some time, if we need to, doing referrals. Sometimes people will reach out to us and they're having trouble finding someone who meets their needs. Their needs may not be met by our practice. So for example, someone who's under 18, that wouldn't work. Somebody who needs a specific form of treatment, and we try to help get them connected to services that are appropriate for them. And I will say our 2 social workers are particularly skilled at that, though they've helped to teach us all. And I do occasional assessments, mostly for neurodiversity and autism. Most of our clients are on our sliding fee scale. Very few of our clients pay full rate. In fact, about 75% of our clients pay less than half of our full fee, and we're able to do that by kind of dispersing clients across that sliding fee scale. And generally, our clients come in weekly or biweekly. We do have a fair number of people who come in biweekly simply because that's what they can afford. So when I talk about this idea of we work with folks around sexual, gender, and relational diversity, the thing I want you to understand is that these are identities. This is what we're talking about. And I have a longer video. If you're curious about this, you can check out our website. There's a tab that says resources and then what is sexual, gender, and relational diversity if you want to hear me talk about how I think about these identities. The important piece here, though, is understanding that these might be the identities that people are holding coming in, but these are not necessarily the presenting clinical issues because identities are not inherently clinical issues. So the presenting clinical issues that are seen in our practice, they vary widely, but they generally represent those most often seen by generalist practitioners. Anxiety, depression, distress in relationships, very common, distress around jobs, so how people are dealing with relationships, not just with partners, but with a boss, with a coworker, with a child, with other family members, all of the things that we see so often in practice. But we think about those with the specific overlay of providing these services to individuals who may have identities that we can either provide affirming support for or just non-judgmental attitudes towards, or who may be marginalized or targeted by virtue of their gender, their sexuality, their relationship, and recognizing the impact of minority stress as well as the more global world stress that people are under in this situation. So when I talk about that, I'll often talk about understanding the demand that social norms place on people to present in a certain way, to behave in a certain way, and the expenditure that that takes for people, and remind folks that our outliers really matter. They are not outside of the importance in the world, and we need to be thinking about how is the pressure to conform to that midline in our behavior, even if that is not at all the comfortable thing for us. How is that costing people? And so we often talk about the ideas of cisnormativity, heteronormativity, mononormativity, also thinking about this around uh, autism and the neurotypicality and the pressure to perform there that can happen, all kinds of experiences of being marginalized that we see with our clients that really impact their lives. So what does it look like to work here? Well, one of the things that I really want to communicate is that it looks varied and diverse, and I think fun and exciting. Also that we all really like each other. I didn't put up everybody's pictures because I don't have their consent to do that for this particular moment. But if you look on the website, everybody's pictures and bios are there. We have the most wonderful group of people that are incredibly supportive of one another and not only our clinical work, but our growth. The practicum really is designed to do what all practicums do, which is to develop therapeutic skills, clinical interviewing skills, ethical clinicians, right? To be learning this work that we all are really excited about. Ours is specifically designed to help clinicians who are interested in working in the areas of sexual, gender, and relational diversity, including with marginalized populations in those areas, who are interested in learning about what issues of concern are for those populations and how they intersect with other identities. So one of the first things that I will tell any student who may be interested is, if this is not something that's interested for you, then our practicum is not for you, and that's okay. We can all only have so many passions, so many hyper focuses in our work, and it's really hard to choose between them in graduate school. Believe me, I still remember what that was like. So if this is not for you, that's not a problem. We will refer to you in whatever work you choose to do. But if you are interested and if you'd like to learn more, absolutely contact us, express interest in the practicum, schedule an interview with me. We will make that happen. In general, we assess progress in 3 major areas: theoretical knowledge, clinical skills, and professional attitudes. We do have a standard assessment form that I'm happy to share with people. And we talk a lot about ethical standards, but we actually use a multimodal approach to ethics, understanding that all of our mental health professions have standards and codes, and because we all intersect and overlap so often, we'll often look at many of the codes to see who has some piece that might be particularly important for us, something that we might learn from. And so we do use all of those ethical standards in our practice, although obviously as a psychologist, I am bound by APA's code, but I'm familiar with all of them. So what does a week look like for a practicum student with us? Well, the goal is that you would get 8 to 10 hours of direct service per week, so that you can build up those hours, because we know how important that is. And that generally takes the form of intake interviews or screenings. So our practicum students conduct these for all new clients in the practice as a way for us to determine, is this person a good fit? Are they going to work out? Check on some safety issues. Do we need to refer them out? If there needs to be a referral out, then our practicum students can, if they have time in their schedule, take on the referral portion of the process as well. And our practicum students also have their own ongoing caseload made up of whatever they are wanting to work on. We do case disposition. I generally do that, and I talk with my clinicians about what they're wanting to work with, who they're wanting to see, what they have space for. I do tell people that the hours are pretty flexible. They can be crafted to suit a schedule, to suit your class schedule, to work around other commitments. There are several meetings in the week that we will have to work around. For example, our staff meeting, which can be rescheduled, but which will be regular. Your time in supervision with me will be regularly scheduled. We don't schedule anything at the last minute and call people and expect them to be there. I'm a planner. We always plan ahead. But there is some flexibility here, and not all of this work is done on site. So you are welcome to do all of your work on site. However, a lot of the work that we do is virtual, and so you can do one day of the week in the office. I do ask that people are in the office at least once a week. You can also see clients virtually from home and connect with me virtually during that time. So the goal obviously with Practicum is that you accrue at least 500 hours by the end of the year. Certainly if you want to exceed that, you can. And one of the things that is maybe somewhat unique about our Practicum is that we have an ethical commitment to ensuring that any work that people do is paid. So we ensure that our Practicum student is paid 50% of any fees that are paid by our clients, which is the same, it's a different rate, but also everybody who works here is paid something for the work that they do. So the last thing that I want to communicate just before we're done here is kind of what our requirements are for students. Obviously, it's that you meet those goals, that you show up to see clients, that you do the work that you have contracted to do. But we also ask that students come with excellent communication skills and a willingness to communicate to us what you're needing, how we can all work together. Obviously, we all have our unique needs and we all want to communicate well about that. And openness to self-examination. And as I mentioned, being in alignment with the practice goals and values as well as the focus of the work that we do is really important to us. There are some paperwork requirements, things like having your student professional liability insurance, and I do need a signed W-9 in order for people to be paid. It's also important that people have a computer that works well and will allow you to log into the internet, because we keep all of our records on an electronic health record. And so we want to be security minded and conscious, and all of those little bits and pieces we can run through with people, and they are in the write-up of the practicum that I have provided to your program so that you can get access to that and look through all of the requirements. Generally, we're hoping to find people who are curious, who are open to learning new things. We do talk about sex a fair amount around here because people are not necessarily eager to talk about it always. It may not be the presenting issue, but we do work with a lot of clients for whom it is. So we're looking for folks who are sex positive and non-judgmental, and at least willing to get comfortable talking about sex, because we certainly know that that's a journey for a lot of people. So I want to thank everybody so much for listening. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, that's great. I look forward to meeting you. If you have more questions, check out our website. It says a great deal about our practice. If you would like to set up a time to meet for an interview, just drop me an email, rachel@storybrook.com, and I am happy to get to know any and all of you. Have a great day. Bye.